Very recently, Celeste released Chapter 9. The base game originally had 8 chapters with the normal A-sides, harder B-sides, and even harder C-sides. I recently completed all of those and decided to put myself to the test on this final level. It starts in a nice grassy expanse that is perfectly normal until old Granny dies. Madeline fell apart after Granny's death and couldn't even make it to the funeral. She decided to come to Granny's final resting place to make peace. But she gets distracted by a bird and decides that that bird is Granny's soul. While Madeline used to be this demonic bad part of Madeline, I honestly kind of resonate with her. Madeline is very sensible and tells Madeline that this is a bad dream and a horrible coping mechanism that she needs to get rid of. Madeline offers several times to wake up and actually deal with Granny's death the right way, but nope, we're going to go insane doing some platforming. We get launched up into space, and I've got to say the aesthetic here is incredible. The themes of each level have always been a highlight for me, and with this level they just went wild. It's a crazy combination of colors and different elements, but it blends together in such a nice Celeste way. Anyway, we have an argument with our inner self and end up parting ways. While this is sad, as it's the first time they parted since they first made peace, we also then lose our second dash. But of course, the devs found a way around that. This is the pink crystal that gives you 2 dashes instead of 1. It's a very cool item and heavily utilized throughout the chapter. The first couple of levels are pretty easy and only took me a couple of tries. There was some cool momentum-based platforming in this room, followed by the first confusing room. Throughout the game, a big part of each room is trial and error just to figure out what to do. There are many unique elements that can be used in a variety of ways, so it's not always obvious what you're required to do. In this room, you get a pink crystal at the beginning, but have to save it till the end, which means no dashing. You have to grab this platform and then hold down to fast fall and hit it, launching you forward and letting you finish the level. 2 levels after that, you get introduced to the fish. These things allow you to bop them on the head to move them down, and then hit them from the side to explode off of them, both of which regenerate your dash. What I didn't know for a while is that you can hold the jump button to get more height off of these. Initially, I was just hitting their head and getting a whole 2 centimeters of height, which made things very difficult. In the next room, I found out you can also dash and jump off of them, giving you a lot of horizontal distance too. There was quite a bit more fish platforming to really teach you the fundamentals of the art of the fish, including some very wacky springs that we might have to call Pete about before we got to this room. It actually wasn't that bad, and I got a second try, which felt amazing. But then I reached a checkpoint and another new item to use, the umbrella. The umbrella allows you to float around and fall much slower than you would normally. It also allows you to throw it and then dash back into it to gain more height. After a quick tutorial on that, we're placed in a massive room with a lot of electricity and not many places to go. I stumbled around for a while, running into dead end after dead end until I started messing around with this red orb. I went in every direction just seeing if something would happen until I accidentally went sideways into a wall. Bro, I wasted several valuable minutes of my life on this. I realized that there were some crumbled blocks I could have noticed, but that's really not what I'm looking at. If you're enjoying the video so far, then make sure to subscribe. I upload every Monday and you don't want to miss it. Thank you. In the secret room, you find a pink crystal that can be used to access a secret area and gain permanent access to a different pink crystal. With that, you can access another secret area and find permanent access to an umbrella. With these 2 powers combined, I was able to make it to the electrical box and smack it twice to make all the electricity disappear. After I got rid of all the electricity, I got access to 5 rooms with 5 keys, and they all taught different skills with the umbrella. The first 3 were pretty easy. The first one shows you that you can throw the umbrella through spikes. The second one helps you remember how to gain height with one, and the third room shows you how you can use a wall to gain a lot of vertical height. Well, up until now, all the rooms have been 1 obstacle each and basically just a tutorial. We're now on the test. You have to string together several throws while maintaining enough speed to stay on the cycle of the moving blocks. If you're slightly too slow, then you just die. The 5th room was a little hidden, but relatively easy and only took about 3 tries. I unlocked all of the gates and then flew and climbed through the stars. There was an interesting lesson that spikes are only one-sided before a lot more umbrellas, out of which my favorite was this room. I felt so fluid completing it, and it was really fun figuring out how to get past this wall. We had some more fun fish abuse to get it to move horizontally before we reached the end. There was some cool parkour of riding under this moving platform that transports our umbrella and then quickly saving ourselves at the end. I dash into the heart, and immediately things were a little weird. The screen starts glitching, and then that random stupid bird flies past our screen. Obviously, the only rational thing Madeline can do in this scenario is to rip the heart into pieces and decide to go after the bird. There was a little heart requirement of 15 hearts before I reached the internet cafe where I got the tutorial on wave dashing. I already somewhat knew how to do it, but I wasn't very good. There's a big tutorial screen to help you out where you can see someone do it and then try to replicate it. You also learn about wall bounces in here, which I'm also not great at. After a lot of tries, I strung it all together in the final room and finally got the bird. Except he slaps me back to the mortal plane after about 2 seconds of holding on. Madeline is very confused, but after lightning strikes, she is set on catching that bird, which will somehow reincarnate Granny. After this point, a pretty good rule of thumb for when you're trying to figure out a level is to just try and wave dash somewhere, and 99% of the time, you'll figure it out. The first hard one for me had to be the first room with Kevin. He unfortunately has lice, meaning I can't step on his head in the same spot twice without infecting myself and dying. To complete this room, I jumped down and activated the Kevin. I then climbed on top of him and crouched on the very edge. After collecting one of the keys, I jumped to the other edge and ducked. I got the final key, jumped on Kevin, and then dashed into him again. Make sure not to get crushed at the end and then jump on that dirty hair one more time before beating the level. The wall jumps on this level felt otherworldly though. The way that I got launched around the spikes felt amazing and super cool. What's not super cool though is this awful level which nearly took me an hour to beat. You want to wait until it's at the third spike pillar before wave dashing over and wall bouncing. You then have to avoid the spikes and hit another wall bounce before getting launched or the ending. The move after that is probably the longest one so far. The first part was pretty easy, and after I figured out the path for the golden feather, I didn't often mess it up. The part after that was rough. You go through a long falling section where you're required to fast fall to keep up with a platform you need to hit at the end. And after that, you're still not done, as you have to go through this massive golden wing section filled with spikes. And did I mention that if you fail here, you're all the way back at the very start? In total, the final attempt took me almost a minute of straight platforming. A couple of rooms after that was this one with a very cool idea. These platforms are activated by dashing, and to keep them from crushing you, you have to constantly dash. The platforming's not extremely difficult, but it's a lot more stressful in this scenario. The next thing they threw at me was wind. I never liked wind, but honestly this section was cool. Because the wind was so strong, it put the red orbs on a diagonal slant and led to some very unique platforming and problem solving. If you've played Core before, you recognize these fellas. I never liked them, and unfortunately they're back. You have to parkour up this room while collecting several keys, and I died here so many times. The next rough room came in the form of golden feathers. I had to fly my way through deadly stars and constantly changing winds before finally reaching Badeline and a glitched form of the start of the game. We have another chat with Badeline where she brings up some solid points. We're chasing some random bird, we're dreaming, and none of this is real. But Madeline doesn't care, and I got to face my least favorite section by far. The timing blocks are a cool concept, but add a whole other level of difficulty to the game. Not only do you have to do the platforming, you also have to adjust for the perfect timing. I saw this most perfectly in this level, where I was constantly a little too early or too late, and just waited for the arbitrary moment where I was on time. They're all very cool level designs, I just don't really like the concept in general and find it annoying. They now control the speed at which you play the game, which restricts a lot of the freedom. At the end of the levels though, I was able to slam the bird into the ground before it just flew away, leaving Madeline depressed. Madeline admits that the bird isn't real and that this is a dream and is just a coping mechanism, but decides to go deeper into it anyway because who cares about anything anymore? Madeline realizes that she should just help Madeline through this as fast as possible to help her escape, as Madeline refuses to back down. There are a couple more rooms where we get to use both the bird and Madeline to help us through. The bird just kind of flings us sideways and Madeline launches us straight. There's some more practice with the umbrella and fish before we're here. The final room. It's the longest room in the entire game and it's very hard. The fish is by far the easiest section, as you can make mistakes and still recover. The fish respawns so fast that a throw and dash to recatch the umbrella is enough time to wait it out. After blasting yourself after the second fish, I like to immediately throw and then get blasted by the fish before catching the umbrella again. Although, if you're too low, you can always gain some height before throwing the umbrella. Make sure not to hit the Shimmering Veil and then throw the umbrella to dash to Battlein. You then want to come at this umbrella diagonally so you don't go too high and get electrocuted. After that, you hit the spring and wait till the peak of your height before flipping the joystick left and throwing the umbrella. You then want to hit the spring and again catch the umbrella diagonally to not die. You then start to face wind, and the worst section by far. You have to throw and dash to get high enough, and then tap right to stop yourself from dying. You then float down and throw right before dashing either up twice or up and diagonally up left to go to the spring. Instead of immediately dashing and picking up the umbrella, you're going to want to dash up to stall and then grab it. If you don't do this, you'll shoot up too high and die. You can then float over to the crystal and you're officially done with the first third of this level. The wind then starts blowing upwards, which allows us to fly. The first section is simply moving back and forth and then up and down. For these two electrical squares, I like to wait until they were in this position before holding left and flying straight through them. You can also freestyle, but I found I wasn't very consistent. In the next section, I like to stall by floating upwards and then go down right in short bursts to get by the stars. It's a pretty easy obstacle, and I didn't die here much. After that is the fish, which I literally died to a single time and never again. Just don't be an idiot and control your movement. The fish are always easy. Then you have to float into this little corridor and throw your umbrella to activate a switch which puts you in free fall. This is about the end of the second third of the level. You then free fall and do some very easy dashes. When you reach the fish, make sure you drop low enough to activate it. There are way too many times where I'll be just a little too high and have to restart off a stupid mistake like this. After hitting the fish, there's a short golden feather section followed by a little parkour. I occasionally miss the springs, but just don't and you'll clear it easily. My only recommendation for this last little segment is to almost always be holding right. When you go through the Shimmering Veil getting rid of your umbrella, you start dropping fast, so you need to be holding right before that to get to the following section. It's honestly pretty easy, except for the fact that you have about a minute and a half of platforming behind you, and know that if you mess up, you've got to do it all again. After you get it, you now have the easiest parkour in the game, so don't mess it up. Hit the electrical box twice, and then dash to the bird. They fling you around a little bit before you get in a golden feather. Be ready to dash at the top for a level complete. It took me just over 10 hours, and I finally got to see Madeline and Granny reunite. Even though it isn't real, it's still sweet, and we get to see Madeline wake up and finally reconnect with Theo, who found a picture of Granny and Theo's dad climbing the mountain together. What a coincidence. It's a nice ending and the perfect DLC to an already incredible game. But unfortunately, our journey's not over yet. Even though it says it doesn't have any strawberries to collect, there's actually a secret strawberry. To obtain it, you first have to beat the normal ending to the level. Once you get to the electrical box, instead of jumping to the bird, you instead want to dash down and jump before holding left and dashing once again to get onto this box. And now you have the most stressful section of your life, because if you mess up here, it's back to the beginning. Eventually, I strung it all together. Once you get to this platform, you're safe, as you respawn here. You're finally done playing that awful section. The parkour after that is super low stakes, and I got after a few minutes of trying. Once you get in this room, you just want to go up and around and then kill yourself on the spike to respawn in the boxed off passageway. And then you're in the final room, which took me 3 hours and gave me a hatred for umbrellas that will never end. But to save you some time, here's how I did it. Don't rush the first couple of jumps. A lot of times I would try and throw and dash too fast, and wouldn't get the full height, meaning I would miss this pink crystal and die. So take your time, and it will make your experience a lot more pleasant. After 2 more throws, you'll reach this spring, which you want to wait to hit closer to the bottom. You also want to hold left until you stop your momentum. This will make it so you don't fly into the spikes. I think you're supposed to do another throw against the wall and dash up trick. But I couldn't get it to work without dying, so instead I jumped off the wall and did a normal throw and catch to gain height. It was way more consistent and just better for me. When you hit the spring though, make sure to hold right so you don't hit the spike. You do some more movement, and when you get here, don't rush it. As long as you don't drop the umbrella, if you're too early, it doesn't matter, as you can float back down to the spring and come back up to try again. You can jump across these stones, and make sure to aim as low on this wall as you can so you don't get too high and get impaled. Then you want to throw the umbrella and wait on this wall until the umbrella almost hits this ring before jumping and dashing to intercept it. Don't mess up your catch and throws on this part, and you're basically home free. You're back in the upward facing wind, and it's a pretty easy section. I died here maybe 3 times before I got it. Take a deep breath, pause if you need to, and finish this section off. After you've caught the umbrella, you're home free. You can flow up to the moonberry and get a nice wow message, and 1 out of 0 strawberries on the menu. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider liking and subscribing, as I upload every week. If you have some video ideas, then leave them in the comments below, and I'll give them a try. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.